gas cans. Rooftop tent. 400-pound solid steel bumpers made in the United States by hand. Tire mounted to the roof or the bumper. Cockpit battle stations. Nope, we got none of that stuff because this is a minimalist overlander. Howdy, this is Mike. Thanks for joining us on All Terrain Family today. I've been asked a bunch of times to do a walk around on our 1999 3rd Gen 4Runner. While it's not the most eye-catching of off-road overlanding rigs, it works really well for us, and I'm going to show you why. Alright, so we'll start at the front here. Obviously we've got an unmodified stock bumper for a 99 4Runner. This is called the fat lip bumper because it sticks out. Some of the bumpers don't do that. Some people don't like it. I don't really have a problem with it. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Here in the front for suspension, stock suspension, pretty much. These are stock leaf, stock coil springs on Bilstein struts. And those struts, in case you can't really tell, they're not mounted at the default position. They're mounted at a lift position, so they're about 1.5 inches up from where they would be otherwise. Other than that, the suspension has not been modified except for the fact that I've replaced the lower ball joints and the axles a couple times, and I have a little bit of lift on it, and you can't quite see it. Well, you might be able to see it right in there, in the middle there. There's a differential drop kit, which makes up for the lower position of the suspension, and hopefully that will keep me from breaking axles repeatedly and ad nauseum. Here we have your standard BF Goodrich KO2 all-terrain tires, which are pretty good, I think. I like them just fine. They're a size 265/75/16 on the stock 4Runner wheels that I had powder coated black, and the center cap there has been painted black with black plasti dip. Moving back, we have no sliders and just the default stock guards underneath, which have taken a beating for sure, but are sufficient. Haven't made any mods here, but I did replace the steering rack guide, which is that silver knob right there in the middle. I replaced the inner and outer tie rods. I replaced the sway bar mounting points, and I replaced all the bushings for the steering rack. And all those modifications have made this turn and track really well on the highway and off-road. There's still a little bit of a clunk in the steering, but I think that is due to the steering universal joint under the hood. That is a common problem with these that I may address at some point in the future. Looking back, we've got the other half of the Bilstein shock kit back there with stock Bilstein shocks, stock suspension bars there, stock axles. Here in the back we'll run a Yakima, a Thule T2 bike rack, and this is a stock trailer hitch. However, it's a stock trailer hitch for a 97 4Runner. At some point I'm going to do the mod where you undo those 3 bolts right there and flip the hitch over and cut out the bumper so that you get more ground clearance. I have stock bumpers, only been modified by rock damage on all 4 corners, similar to what you see here. suspension wise, we're running Old Man Emu 906 springs, and this axle has the built-in factory E-locker, which works really, really well. One of the reasons I'm only running the tire size that we're running, aside from it being pretty good for all of the things we do, is that the tire fits here underneath the vehicle, out of the way. You almost never use the spare tire, and so I don't have to think about it. I don't have to move it out of my way. Any bigger tire just would not fit between the trailer hitch and then the track bar on the other end. Would like to change these springs out. They've sagged more than I would like, the Old Man Emu 906 springs, so I would like to get different springs. They sag so much that I have Daystar spacers in there as well, and they still sag, so not too stoked about that, but that's what I got. On this side we've got nothing special. There's all the same stuff on this side. Looking at the top here, the only thing that's truly overlandy that I have going on here is this Case Cruiser rifle case I have modified to mount here. There are no holes drilled in the case. The case, it mounts on the front and back with standard Yakima universal clips there, and then it sits on a pad underneath, and that keeps it from scratching the roof. I also have a piece of white 3M vinyl film underneath that to keep it from damaging the paint any more than it already has. Alright, let's look at the back. Looking back here, I've got my cargo deck box. I call this a drawerless drawer system. And of course my crew. My drawerless drawer system, so it's basically just the uprights and a platform with a slide out table. This is just a wooden box that I've made. I'll probably rebuild that at some point. It's not a drawer and it's not permanently fixed in here because I swap it between here and the Ford. So it's pretty convenient to have it not be fixed in there. If you want to know more about this, I do have a full build on this particular piece, and it's on my YouTube channel, and I'll just link to it somewhere here on this page, probably like right up here in this corner. The only other mods I've made back here are to remove the cargo cover plastic pieces there.
Hi.
And so that makes it so that the cooler can get that much closer to the wall when we mount the cooler in there. Let's go around the front. This is the back seat where the kids sit.
Hi. Again.
They're really messy and sloppy.
Again.
There aren't any mods back here.
And I got in the swamp.
He went in the swamp. There aren't any mods back here except, yeah, there aren't any mods back here at all. This is just the kids seat. Got two kid seats. The 4Runner does not have the child seat mounting points.
We get two mints.
Yep, and they steal my mints.
Yes.
Okay. Front seat. Front seat's where some good stuff is, actually. Got a nice little piece of Velcro here to attach patches to. Shout out to the Overland NV guys. And of course this came from Mountain State Overland. Some more patches on the ceiling. I don't have quite as many as I should have, but I've got some. Other than that, stock interior, the only mods I've made here are I have a Cobra CB radio instead of an ashtray because we don't smoke, of course. And that I don't have a build video on, but all you gotta do is pull the ashtray out and cut the back out of that ashtray slide, which you take this whole faceplate off, which just snaps right off. You don't need a tool even. And then you wire your thing in and jam your CB radio in there and you're good to go. Stop. Up here I have our steel custom dashboard mount that holds, this is an iPad 2 case, or an iPad mini case with some money clips on the back. I have a full build video on this as well. If you want to make something like this, there's a little bit of rattling, that's what that's for. And I have some wiring there going to the top, and then that is, of course, is a Night Eyes Steely mount for my phone. And that honestly is the sum total of all the mods that we've made to this vehicle. Oh, one more mod that you might have noticed if you were super sharp is this. So up here on the roof, this point right here is the normal place where your roof rails will end. There's a cap that looks just like that that goes right here. I wanted to mount longer things to the roof rack, so I went to the junkyard and I bought one more whole piece, piece of this, one more whole piece, cut it in half. Half is here and half is on the other side. And to mount that up, you just drill some holes, pull down the headliner on the inside, and bolt it on, and there you go. And so now I have a bar up here, and then usually I will have this bar, the second bar, slid back so I can mount a roof box on it. I haven't needed to use the roof box because we've been using our tent, but this is pretty handy. Although it's going to be getting on winter time, so I'll need to mount up the ski rack soon. So I'll have to figure out what to do with all my tools. If you want to see the tools, just I have a video on how I mounted this thing up, and just check that out and you can see all the tools that I have in it in that video.
Name's Mike Shirley. I own a gym in Reno, Nevada. Been there for about 20 years now. That's my daily driver, 2016 Ford Expedition with the EcoBoost motor in it. It's a 3.5 with just turbos. It's their Ford EcoBoost motor they use in a lot of different vehicles, and I've kind of gone through and done just turbos and intercooler and exhaust and stuff on it. So it's a motor you can tune quite a bit. It's faster than I ever thought it would be for kind of what started as a grocery getter. I kind of been a Ford guy for a long time, but in general, I like a sport utility vehicle. I just do a lot of traveling or moving motorcycles around, this and that, and I like being able to put all my stuff in the back and have it locked up and climate controlled too. Like it's nice if you pull your bike gear out and it's like nice and toasty gear rather than frozen and wet in the back of a truck. And it's also, for me, I end up just camp and sleep in the back of it too. So yeah, for me, a full-size sport utility works good, and it's kind of had the Expedition and beat on it pretty good, and it seems to keep going most of the time, but not all the time. I actually have some software called Rally Navigator that makes road books for cross-country and road rally events. So there's just a couple of events I work on where I actually make the road books for the event. The main one I really work on myself making road books is the Rebel Rally, and that happens in October each year, and that's all ladies off-road navigation rally that goes from right in our backyard, Lake Tahoe, out through the Nevada-California desert and all the way down to Glamis. That's 8 days of off-road. That's my favorite week of the year. Get to go out and check out the desert. It does, and I said, I think I never really even envisioned doing that much off-road in this thing. So most of the off-road stuff I did for years was just dirt bikes, like a KTM 500 and a 990 KTM adventure bike, and that's kind of where I did most of my off-road exploring. And my truck was just like either move a bike around, or I just wasn't doing a lot of off-road. And I think really since I started working on the Rebel about 5 years ago and been around more truck guys, I've been doing more off-road stuff, and you know, I can bring my dogs with me too, so that's kind of cool too. So yeah, I've been spending more time off road the truck, and it actually does surprisingly well with some modifications. You know, it needs some help to get there, but all in all, it's been pretty surprisingly. Most important things I've done is just bigger tires. So I got the biggest tires that'll still fit in the spare tire holder. It's a 33-inch Nitto tire, and those have been great. So it's as big as I can run and still have room to carry a spare. The lift is just a 2-inch spacer lift. It's like cheapo Amazon, $200. It's nothing off-road. It's just stock shocks. Other big thing I did is I did put Detroit True Track like limited slip diffs front and rear, because it's an expedition. It had open diffs front and rear, and you'd get stuck in the most like comically easy little cross ditches, and I'm stuck there with 2 wheels just, and I'm like, this is humiliating. And so the limited slips made a huge difference in where it can go. And that's about it for suspension. It's not for, you know, it's not a lot. Bigger tires, limited slip, and a little spacer lift, and that's it. The gears are still stock, yeah. It's only a 33-inch tire, and I did some motor work, so it's got some power to pull them too. So I haven't really messed with gears before, so maybe I don't know what I'm missing. Again, I've driven an expedition. This is my second one. I've driven them since '04, so I've most of my time ever has been in an independent front and rear, but it actually, to me, does really well. It actually I've had guys actually jump out of like an F-250, got my truck, and like, oh my God, this is so much more comfortable. Because it actually does, to me, it rides really well, and especially if you just air the tires down properly, which is something I didn't do for years. You know, I would be bouncing the desert with, you know, 40 pounds of air in my tires, and getting smart over time. I'm like, oh, if I throw them to 25 or 17 in the sand, it's like worlds different in ride quality and just where you can go. It just doesn't beat you up as much. But yeah, it actually does really well off-road. I've kind of trimmed up the approach and departure angles a little bit and ripped off, you know, the stock running boards and stuff just to get it some more clearance. But yeah, it's actually passover clearance is pretty surprisingly good for, I said, I think mostly it's this kind of soccer mom vehicle. I do. I have a compressor under the hood, yeah. It's mounted on my firewall, which looks cool, but I didn't realize it actually shakes the heck out of the cabin when I turn the air compressor on. It's a Via Air, I think, and I don't remember what the size of it is, but yeah, it's just under the hood there on the firewall, and that helps a lot. That's it's like $150 or something. It's been nice now to be able to air down like just early and often rather than stressing over where I'm going to reinflate my tires. Tim at 775 Fabrication in Reno made that and did a cool job. That was the total, like kind of like, you know, back in the napkin drawing on my part, and he did it up in CAD, and when he finally said come check it out, I was like, oh my God, that was just exactly what I had in my mind. So it's cool because it's an expedition. There's very little aftermarket for anything like 4-wheel racks or it's just a generic like $25 you know, Walmart rack. So yeah, the rack was yeah, it cost a few bucks, but it's nice. It holds the lights. I've got my Max tracks up there, a shovel, and then if I'm doing longer events, I can throw a spare tire up there as well. It's had a Christmas tree or two up there also. So yeah, pretty handy, and just kind of neat 'cause it's unique. They're just crappy Amazon $20 LEDs. Had them on there for 5 years and they still work. So I kind of like hides my stuff. Yeah, I kind of like it having it. I mean, it's not. I can't say my truck's low pro because it's covered with stickers and crap. But I just kind of like having my stuff hidden up there rather than stuff just like bolted all over every surface of the truck. That's kind of the way I drew it up, and I thought it would kind of look cool just having a solid rack versus an open one. And yeah, I've been happy with it. Electronics are basic. Yeah, I just have for rally roadbook stuff, I have an odometer and electronic compass in there. You can probably see them on the dashboard in there. So those are two just kind of unique things that most folks wouldn't have much use for. For roadbook navigation, it's all done, like those are your instruments. It's an adjustable odometer and a compass. And so it's just a separate odometer where I can actually like toggle it up and down, reset it to 0. Still pretty basic piece of equipment, but it's just nice, big, visible up in front for navigating that roadbook. It's you know, go this distance and do something. Go straight, turn left, watch out. No, it's actually a wheel sensor odometer. They make, and that my compass equipment is GPS based. For the Rebel Rally, my mom competed in this truck, and you cannot have GPS equipment in the car, so you have to use a wheel sensor odometer. So it's just like a motorcycle, the magnet and the wire, which was a nightmare to get wired up from the dashboard all the way through the firewall down the suspension, and that was kind of a pain in the butt. But yeah, it's a odometer and compass heading. For camping, I'm kind of set up to go. I've said it's my daily driver, so I don't keep a ton of extra stuff in the car. So the stuff I threw in just to come out today is a 12-volt fridge, which is something I held off getting for years. But once I did, I realized that's definitely it's the way to go. You're just not messing with ice and your food getting all wet and gross, and that works real simply. And I just have a wheelie duffel bag with all my bedding in it. That's got my bedding, tent, sleeping bag, pillow. And that just sits in the garage. And so if I say, hey, I want to go camp for the week, and I literally just a fridge, duffel bag, throw them in the car with some clothes, and I can be, on the road in like 5 minutes. The kind of off-roady stuff that I keep in the car is just shovel, recovery straps, jack. I have some spare. I have a little storage container in the back where I've got MREs, rain clothes, just all the kind of like bug out. I got stuck, I broke down stuff. That stuff stays in the car all the time because it doesn't really take up much. It's all stashed, doesn't take up any room. But the big stuff like the fridge and the duffel bag just in the garage. I can get back to go real quick. I took out the third row seat in my truck. I never used it, and I realized there's actually a lot of space under here. So one of my weekend projects, that's just a regular old check mat. But put this in, and this is just Home Depot plywood and hardware. Doesn't look like much because I have stuff full of towels, so it's a rattle, but in here is essentially like emergency, like rain gear, recovery stuff, high lift jack, which I never use because I'd probably kill myself. I like MREs, water, just kind of emergency stuff I don't need to get at because if the back's loaded, it's tough to get at. But there's actually a pretty fair amount of space back there. I'm not even using all the space, but yeah, if you have a third row seat in the truck you're not using, there's a lot of volume there to take. I've even contemplated taking out one or two of the second row seats just because you open up so much space. It's crazy. So you can make a nice little stash in there, and it's plywood and screws, so it's not super high tech. Yeah, that kind of works out cool, and I like it. It's a way to kill a Saturday. Three different, I got 3 or 4 different satellite deals. I have a satellite telephone, Garmin InReach, and I have a spot tracker. And the reason I have both of those is they work on different satellite networks. Primarily, those satellite networks are pretty darn reliable, but it does happen where you're not getting out on Iridium for 4 hours. So having a spot tracker, like kind of a secondary or even tertiary satellite communicator is a big deal. Because I'm by myself a lot of time out in the desert, so it's just kind of silly not to have a way to call mom if you need to. Yeah, more than once, but recently I stuck this thing up in a High Rock Canyon, which is I think 50 miles north of Gerlach, which is already in the middle of nowhere. So I was well and truly up off the grid about middle of January, and hit a rock and broke my steering about 8 o'clock at night out by myself in an icy canyon. So I thought, I'm definitely going to spend the night here. Yeah, but it was nice. I actually wasn't that stressed. I had sleeping bag, food, fridge, satellite comm. So yeah, it's inconvenient, but it's not like you're just sitting there waiting for someone to come walk by, which at that time of year wasn't going to happen. So yeah, in that case, I was able to call Washoe County Sheriff and got extricated, and you guys were friendly enough to help me out about 4 days later getting the truck out, which was pretty cool. I'm not a crazy mechanic. I only get in so deep on mechanical stuff, so I haven't done a lot. I haven't broken a lot of stuff either. But I put the lift kit in myself and took struts in and out. It's stuff I've never done, but if you hop on YouTube, man, you could do heart surgery if you study enough. So yeah, I haven't had a lot of stuff break on it. I put like the intercooler on myself. It just kind of these onesie twosie project jobs that I don't know how to compare it to other jobs. So I just go out in the garage and fiddle with it until it's kind of works the way I want. I think it totally is. I like the full-size sport utility. It's got good, just the entire cargo volume inside is really good. It's not a huge van. It's not a monster, oversized truck. My background is off-road motorcycling, so I actually started doing most of my off-roady camping stuff on a KTM adventure bike, which I love because that's just pure minimalism. You just take the very least amount of stuff you can carry what's on your bike and take off for a week or 3 weeks. So for me getting in my truck, it's like I just have even inside the truck, it feels like I have all the space in the world to bring 10 times more than I want. So I just don't have any need to fill it up with extra stuff. Like you only need, so I was approaching like, hey, I used to fit all my camping gear on my motorcycle. People go camping with just what's on their back. That's all you really need to go have an adventure for 2 or 3 days. If I was gonna say hey, I'm living in my vehicle really for a month or 2 months, I'd probably want something bigger than a truck, but I could easily live out of that thing for 2 or 3 weeks on the road with what's in it right now.
Howdy friends, I hope you enjoyed that cool Minimalist Overlander video with my friend Mike's Ford Expedition. Just want to talk to you here at the end for a minute about outdoor ethics. So it's getting on spring, and after that summer, and it's going to be outdoor season and camping season pretty soon, and I know after last year that there are quite a few people enjoying the outdoors that are new. First of all, welcome. It's good to have you here, and we look forward to seeing you on the trail. So what do I mean by outdoor ethics? Well, outdoor ethics are a philosophy for how you act in wild spaces, to do the right thing for the landscape, the environment, the animals and the humans who live here and visit here. So the first and easiest thing that you can do is just pack it in, pack it out. That means that if you create trash, make sure that it goes home with you. And if you find trash around, do your best to take that with you too. The easiest way to accomplish the pack it in, pack it out is to be prepared. Have some trash bags with you. Have some way to contain, store, and transport any garbage that you make or find along the way. So, easiest thing to do, grocery bags. I just have a bag full of bags. Just a wad of bags here in the drawer. They always live right here, and they're there for all of the household trash. I've got some already started right here from all the stuff that just blows around the truck. Second thing you could do is have some contractor's bags. These are just big garbage bags, even regular garbage bags. They don't have to be contractor's bags. This way, if things get really messy with your own camp, which happens, you'll have a way to pick it up and take it home. And if somebody else has left a mess for you to come across, you can do your best to take that home too. Well, that's it for now. If you want to learn more about outdoor ethics, consider looking up the Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics at lnt.org. If you like this video, consider hitting that like button. And if you want to see more like this, maybe you should subscribe. If you really, really like this video, maybe hop on over to our Patreon page and become a supporter there. If you like to look at pictures, you can follow us on Instagram. We're at AllTerrainFam. Happy trails. There's this recurring dream I have, off and on, all my life, long as I can remember anyway. It involves that perfect, smooth stretch of dirt road. Not one that was graded flat by a metal blade, altering the surface temporarily. A road that was naturally smooth, minimal rocks, no washboard. In the dream we roll from rough road, all chaos and interruptions, onto the smooth road, and the hum of the engine, and the wind, and the tires, and the dust flying up, and particles of sand hitting the undercarriage. If we pick up speed, the undulations in the surface will sway the truck, and the rattles and squeaks will come back. If we slow, the resonance will set in, and will be jostled and polished by the scratchy seat covers. Only here, in the magic speed, on this magic road, in this magic ship transiting the land, can we feel this flow. Joy and contentedness with the present peace set against the horizon of its fleeting nature. Being in the right place at the right time with only what you need to exist there. Because there's always that rough patch of road ahead somewhere. Hi, this is Mike. I'm an adventurer and a dad. And today I'm here to tell you that you don't need a rig with a build thread and its own Instagram profile in order to go out into the middle of nowhere, cook some hot dogs, and watch the sunset. To illustrate this point, I want to show you our 2017 Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-Road, and why I think a vehicle like this is a great minimalist vehicle for overlanding, off-road exploring, and camping with your family. On the outside, the Toyota Tacoma is a good-looking vehicle. The TRD off-road package adds a few good styling elements like this grille, which started its life with a chrome look and has been updated with Rust-Oleum truck bed spray, and these black plastic fender flares. The vehicle has a paint-matched rear bumper which indicates that it's equipped with a blind spot monitoring sensor. This vinyl decal rounds out the exterior trim level cues. The topper is a snug top GB Sport with the Sportsman's package, which includes the roof rails, the rack, as well as a 500-pound dynamic load rating. While the paint match shell matches the design of the truck perfectly and looks great, the low profile and limited rear opening is not ideal. But it came with the truck. This vehicle is also equipped with a towing package which includes a hitch rated for 6,400 pounds and a 6-pin and 4-pin connector. For the last 20 years, for the most part, all cars have had power windows and power door locks. And they've largely settled the reliability issues from the 80s when Grandpa used to yell at us for constantly cycling them on the way home from church. The interior of the 3rd Gen Tacoma hasn't, to my knowledge at least, won any design or functionality awards. It does, however, look great and function adequately. It has all the things. The head unit is good, not great, but it pairs with a phone via Bluetooth or wired connection, and a phone is a far better infotainment source anyway. Apple CarPlay would be nice, but it isn't a deal breaker. It has the capability to change some of the functions of the vehicle as well as track maintenance. This truck has more nice features than any vehicle I've ever owned. Heated seats, sunroof, backup camera, parking sensors, and blind spot monitoring. I've added the anytime backup camera with front-facing camera. Being able to turn on the backup camera when in drive is helpful when hitching up the trailer, and the front-facing camera can somewhat make up for the poor visibility around the hood. Now, none of these things are remotely necessary for overlanding or camping or really anything. They're just small things that are kind of nice to have sometimes, most of the time, well, all the time really. The biggest complaints I have with the 3rd Gen Tacoma come with the suspension. While the TRD Off-Road has a slight upgrade in the suspension over the SR and Sport models, it honestly isn't that much. This truck has Bilstein 4600 shocks that are pitifully small. While the ride is okay, it suffers on long sections of washboard and rocky bumps, which is the bread and butter of overlanding. The front springs are perfectly fine, but the rear leaf springs, while they do have a robust-looking overload leaf, are woefully inadequate for any kind of load. Still, many Tacoma owners don't find this to be a problem, and you see a lot of leveling kits to make up for the modest stink bug rake of the stock Tacoma. With the load of the topper and gear, I found we were riding the bump stops quite frequently. I upgraded the stock bump stops to Timber and Active off-road bump stops and added Icon Add-A-Leafs. This mostly solved the problem, and while I still ride the bump stops when fully loaded with the trailer, the Timberins have more travel and a softer overall feel when loaded. Like steak and french fries, the drivetrain and axles are the meat and potatoes of any overlanding build. The difference you get with real four-wheel drive over the all-wheel drive you see in most SUVs and crossovers is important, even if it's not always important. As such, this truck has true four-wheel drive with a 2-speed transfer case. That means you have a way to send power to all 4 wheels. Yeah, I know, that's not strictly true, but it's kinda true. This vehicle also has some really great traction control features, including auto LSD, stability control, crawl control, and multi-terrain select. I admit to not fully understanding how all these features really work. In a situation like this rut, where a standard open differential would slip and slide backwards, the Tacoma traction control powers you right through in 2-wheel drive. What I do understand quite well is the electronic on-demand locking rear differential. This locks the rear axle when in 4-low and makes low traction situations much less challenging. I have a full video on how locking differentials work over here. Now, everyone has an opinion about the powertrain on the 3rd Gen Tacoma, and almost all of them are pretty unqualified. The 3.5 liter V6 that comes in these has plenty of power and doesn't need any mods. Sure, it has that power and torque at places in the RPM range that you might not be that familiar with coming from your dad's old '83 Bronco with that big straight 6 and NP 435, but really, just between the two of us, was that really all that great? The transmission also has no mods, and is another one of those things that your average 4M OG, who has more money invested in woofers and ceramic coatings than camping gear, thinks is the worst thing Toyota has ever done. Come on guys, if you put 1,200 pounds of junk in your truck and go up 3 tire sizes with the stock gears, every vehicle is going to suck. I've definitely had to adjust my expectations with respect to how the engine and transmission work together to respond to torque requests. But in the end, the truck does everything I ask it to do without complaint. So one of the most common questions you see on social media and forums is, what mods do I need for my stock truck to get out and go overlanding? My stock answer is beer and dirt. But that's not completely true. So here are the mods that I think you really do need. The tires that come stock on these vehicles are clearly designed for the dudes who get leveling kits and only haul around detailing products and wicked red amplifiers. They're designed for efficiency and comfort. For extended dirt road adventures, you need at least a C-load range tire with the equivalent of a 6-ply sidewall. But I run E-range tires with a 10-ply equivalent. These tires are rated to carry well more than the GVWR of a Tacoma, and since most Overlanders are doing just that, it's a good idea to have the right tire, even if you're using the wrong truck. The E-rated tires will also be a lot more resistant to punctures than stock tires, which should be the main concern anyway. For now, I'm running BF Goodrich all-terrain KO2s in the stock size. I have had one puncture on these, but that's sometimes unavoidable. BF Goodrich, Nitto, Cooper, Falcon, General, Goodyear, and Toyo all have great all-terrain tires that are suitable for overland travel in a vehicle like this. As I said, the powertrain is really quite good, and as it is, doesn't need any power mods. But if you're going to tow, you absolutely need to get a trailer brake controller. The extra braking will help in every situation. While I said the stock transmission is good, if you have one of these early years of the 3rd gen, you need to make sure you have the most recent update to the transmission programming. It takes care of a lot of the problems these early models had. And while you're in there with the transmission, you might as well add a decent shifter handle as well. The Get a Grip shift handle adapter lets you run any standard bike grip as your transmission grip, but honestly, I'm not sure why anyone would use anything other than an Ori. One of the first things I did when I got this truck is I brought it home and I installed a good ceramic coating and a subwoofer. Kidding. The day after I got it, I took this truck on a super rough road with Harry to shoot this video for Driving Line. Along the way, I smashed the crap out of the skid plate, which is made out of metal in name only. With the proceeds of that shoot, I ordered a full engine, transmission, and transfer case skid set from RCI. I opted for aluminum to save weight and bare metal to save money. I would definitely recommend something like this, though with a little care and spotting you can obviously get by. Just because you haven't modded your rig with a lift, big tires, and a bunch of other stuff it was never designed to handle, doesn't mean you aren't going to break stuff. I carry a basic set of tools here at the back of this drawer, and when we're going big O overlanding, I'll also throw in a recovery strap, shackle, and spare receiver pin. For long stretches of dirt road, it's a good idea to lower the pressure in your tires to increase comfort and lower the chance of a puncture. So I carry this deflator kit from Grizzly Gear and a power tank for inflating. The power tank is quiet, fast, and doesn't use electricity. It lasts a good number of fills and can easily survive a season of use before needing a $25 refill. I also carry a gallon of water in this steel container, as well as a first aid kit that I haven't checked or restocked in 6 years. Should probably do that one of these days. So since Toyota failed to hire me, a guy with a creative writing degree, as an engineering consultant on this project, they made a few mistakes. I'll go over them now. First, the hood is huge. It's beautiful, full-figured, ample, and shapely, and I really like it. But let's be honest, it's impractical and hard to see around. Second, the side mirrors are small and inadequate. Coupled with the beautiful, though vision-obstructing design of the 4-door cab, it's impossible to see anything out of the rearview mirror, especially with a topper on. The forward-facing camera and backup camera mitigate these issues to a certain extent, and the anytime backup camera helps more as well. With these visibility issues, the parking assist and blind spot monitoring aren't just nice things, they're kind of necessary. Lastly, as you would expect for a vehicle that spends 90% of its time on the road, this vehicle is geared really high. And that's kind of a problem when you're off-road. But the beauty of getting the TRD off-road or the TRD Pro model is that it comes with crawl control and hill descent control. And that largely makes up for the gearing. With a vehicle like this Toyota Tacoma TRD Off-Road, you don't really need a new suspension. You don't need fancy high-tech wheels. You don't need a bunch of heavy recovery gear. You don't have to start a build thread on the forums. It's ready to go to the end of the trail, just as it is. All right guys, we're back in a white Toyota, but we're not just in any white Toyota today. Today we're in Harry's first gen Tundra, and the topic of the day is going to be Minimalist Overlanders again. This is a pretty cool little beast that I'm driving today. We're going up to shoot some videos. We're going to shoot a little walk around of his Ram with the North Star camper on the back and 37-inch Nittos. And then we're going to shoot a walk around of this vehicle, which on the outside, honestly, if you're looking at it, doesn't look like much of anything really. But there are a lot of hidden features that make this a pretty spectacular Overlander, as I'm learning driving it today for the first time up on Hunter Creek Road. Here we are, almost at our spot. This is the spot we filmed the Coolers video. If you want to see the video I was talking about on this Ram truck, check out the Driving Line YouTube channel, and it'll all be there. Search for Harry Situations and you'll see it. Okay, let's get into it. What do you think minimalism, like what does that really mean to you in respect to a vehicle like that?
I think the important part is that you're going all these places. So you're going the same place that someone that has solar panels and a rooftop tent and all the other things goes, but you don't have those things.
Because you don't really need it all the time.
Well, spoiler, huh?
Right.
It's as important what isn't on the vehicle as what is on it, but I bought this truck, it's a 2002. I bought it about 3 years ago with 150,000 miles on it. Now I've put another 60,000 miles on it. It's been all the way down to Cabo San Lucas. It's been to Mexico several times. I didn't necessarily buy it as an Overlander, but I've certainly done a lot of camping out of it. I use it as my daily driver, and as the mileage shows, I mean, I put more miles on this thing than anything else. People that have been watching for a while know I own a lot of clown cars. I own a lot of things that are more capable than this, but this sort of is the sweet spot between comfort and capability. I only paid $8,000 for the truck when I bought it.
That's good.
So this is Toyota's 2UZ engine, 4.7 liter V8. It's not huge, but it makes good power. I've been really happy with it. It does use a timing belt instead of a chain. It had been changed when I had bought the truck because it had 150,000 miles on it. When it got to 200,000 miles, at B-Rad's Customs, Brad replaced it again. Other maintenance things I've had to do have been pretty minimal. I had some cooling issues. The radiator was all clogged up, so we replaced the radiator. So at the same time the timing belt was done, the water pump was also changed. Now it runs nice and cool.
Okay.
It's got a 4-speed automatic, it's 4-wheel drive, IFS, a lot of scaled up parts from a Tundra, like it uses or a Tacoma rather. It uses the 8.4-inch rear end, the same 7.5-inch front diff, so a lot of interchangeability. I'd really like to have an 04 to 06. They have the iForce V8, so significantly more horsepower with the variable valve timing, and then they had a 5-speed. So maybe a double cab Tundra from 04 to 06 will replace this if it ever wears out. So when I bought this truck, it had really faded headlight housings. I got these aftermarket housings from Rock Auto, which look a lot better. I also added HID bulbs. Honestly, the pattern out of these is not great. I probably wouldn't do that over again if I had a choice, but they get the job done. And this is a Baja Designs high power light bar. One of the things I like about Baja Designs as opposed to other light bars is they use a lot bigger reflector, and so that allows them to throw light further down the road even with the same number of lumens. So I've been really impressed with this. I think they're one of the best ones on the market, if not the best. Right. But factory bumper, factory grille, no winch, no aftermarket bumper.
Right.
Yeah, I think if you're in a place like the Black Rock Desert at night, down in Mexico where there's cattle on the road, it's really come in handy. This is wired up where it's with the high beams. You turn the high beams on and the light bar comes on. I don't love that. I actually used a factory switch, well, Slee Off-Road wired my lights that I had on my 3rd Gen 4Runner. And those, you turned on the high beams, and then you had to turn on the lights separately. But if you turn off the high beams, the auxiliary lights would turn off at the same time. Okay. So like if there was oncoming traffic.
Right, just kill them both.
Right. Because if you're driving on the street with this, and you have the high beams on, the light bar is on, which is not particularly legal or particularly helpful in a lot of places.
No, so you don't get to use your high beams on the road.
Basically, yeah, which is a compromise. We wired that up at the last minute before going to the Baja 1000 a couple years ago, and I haven't got around to fixing it yet.
Right.
It does have rock sliders. My friend Dylan McFarland built those custom sliders on it. He uses 2x2 box tubing and turns it up at an angle at 45 degrees, kind of like a boat side there. And then it has 33-inch Falcon Wild Peak AT3Ws. Right. Falcon's all-weather tire. That's a 285/75/16, okay. So a little bit bigger than stock tire. And these TRD wheels that I had on, I had a 3rd Gen 4Runner like you have. Right. I had a 1st Gen Tacoma. I had these wheels on there. I sell the vehicles, but I never sell the wheels because I really like them. With the brakes that are on this, you can fit a 16-inch wheel, and that gives you more sidewall, which really comes in handy when you're running down trails out in the backcountry. Right. I'm a really big fan of these folding tonneau covers. This particular one is a backflip 2. The thing I really like about it is that it opens all the way up to the front of the cab. You can even hold it in place here and have access to the entire bed. I had an X-Stang on my Ram, and it was a tri-fold, and the front part was fixed, so you really couldn't access the front third of the bed, which was sort of a limiting factor. I mean, it was really robust, and it was pretty inexpensive and simple to install, but having the ability to access the whole bed is a pretty big deal. This is where I store a bunch of my gear, is at the front of the bed. These cargo bars are pretty inexpensive, and I find they come in handy for everything from your camping gear to storing a load if you're moving tires or whatever you happen to be using. So this is a big plus. I keep my recovery gear in here, this bag from Total Chaos. I've got a bubba rope in there, some soft shackles, and then I also have my air hose and the filler gauge for the onboard air system. And I just have a ratchet strap going across here with a Rotopax, and then a set of Max Tracks and my Demos shovel there. Funny story about this, I was on the Rebel Rally last year. We were down at Big Dune outside of Beatty, and there was a BLM officer in a Super Duty truck that was stuck in the sand. I told him, I'll go and help you. And he thought, what are you gonna do? You don't have anything with you. You're in a much smaller truck than mine. But we were able to air down his tires, dig him out with the Demos shovel, and use the Max Tracks, and got him out. It was great. Yeah, so I actually do carry Max Tracks with me. I do carry a Rotopax with fuel in it. Although this has a pretty big tank, I don't have the range issues I had with that 3rd Gen 4Runner, which I think have like a 16-gallon tank. Mine was smashed and was smaller, unfortunately, because it's the lowest hanging thing on the vehicle. Right. This thing has like, I want to say a 24-gallon tank. Okay. The range is about 350 miles, I found, which was a lot more than I had in my 4Runner, certainly.
Right. There's some more interesting things going on with suspension.
Absolutely. That's where I spent the bulk of my money on aftermarket parts. So $8,000 was the purchase price. I've spent about $5,000 modifying the vehicle, and the bulk of that has been suspension and wheels. Or tires rather. I'm not counting the wheels because I already had those. So I've owned a bunch of vehicles, and things like lockers, things like winches are cool, but you really don't use them very much, especially the way I use this vehicle. We have so many trails in the Sierras where if you get off the pavement, you're away from the generators and the RVs, and you don't really have to go very far or on very difficult trails in order to get a spot to yourself where you're in solitude and it's quiet. So that's really what I use this truck for. To me, that's what overlanding is. Right. And something like suspension you use every day. So I think buying high quality shock absorbers and suspension components are definitely money well spent. Even if you're just going down the freeway, you will notice the difference. My background's in rock crawling, and you just bolt on the longest Rancho shock you could fit and go down the trail. And the first time I got a set of high quality shock absorbers, it blew my mind. So I've used Icons, I've have Fox shocks on my Ram. I had Kings on my Tacoma. I've got ADS shocks on my Tracker, and this actually has ADS coilovers on it as well, and then 2.5-inch remote reservoir shocks in the back. And the deciding factor there for me was availability. So when I bought Fox shocks for my Ram, it took over 6 months to get this off-the-shelf part number. And these ADS shocks, again, getting ready for the Baja 1000, I ordered them. 3 weeks later, they showed up. Samco Fabrication installed them. I've got Deaver leaf springs in the back. That's the one thing, if I had to do over again, I don't think I would spend the money. They're pretty expensive. And the load carrying capacity, if I hook up a trailer behind this, it's just on the bump stops. You spend the money and make a compromise, I don't think that's something I would do again.
Right.
In the front, I have Specialty Products upper control arms.
Right.
So those are adjustable to set your caster and camber, and then they actually have a, it's not a uniball, it uses still a tie rod end, but it is high misalignment. You're going to be traveling faster, fatigue is less of an issue.
On
it's
your
just
body.
Absolutely, yeah, it's just more comfortable. So I use this vehicle in the sand dunes when we chase for the Rebel Rally. We go down a lot of washboard roads, the same down in Baja, and it just makes it a lot more comfortable. You're able to travel at a higher rate of speed.
Right.
So all of the wiring and plumbing for the air compressor is under the hood here. Nothing goes into the cab, which was my preference. You have to pop the hood in order to air up, but I didn't feel like that was that big of a compromise. I'm not doing it going down the street. I don't have air lockers or anything like that. So the switch is right here. B-Rad's Customs made this little bracket, put the gauge for the air compressor. This is a Vire's Extreme compressor here, the 650C. It works really well, pretty fast. Pressure switch right here. And then there actually is a tank inside the frame rail underneath the truck. And so that really is helpful for if you need to run air tools or you need to reseat a bead, having that compressed air inside the tank versus just the compressor will allow that rush of air for those sort of things. If you're airing up, there's not enough air in the tank to get all 4 tires. Maybe the first one goes more quickly, but then you're just relying on the compressor. But for some of these other tasks, it really comes in handy. So this system came with that yellow coiled hose you see a lot with air kits. I'm not a big fan. I just went to Lowe's and I got this flexible air line that I think is a lot easier to work with. Goes right in here. You're ready to air up. Yeah, so Relentless Fabrication made this skid plate. It's pretty low profile. It works with the factory bumper, which I like. Regrettably, they don't seem to make it anymore. They've been focusing a lot on late model 4Runners and Tacomas. They even picked up a Colorado ZR2 recently. Local Reno company, and they're doing really well. They're going gangbusters, which I'm happy for. I've been really pleased with this. It's just stronger than stock. If you make impacts, then it's going to protect the front diff and the suspension components, which is a nice sense of security. The downside is it is fairly heavy, so when you need to take it on and off, you need help. So this truck's an access cab. I have had 4 people in here, but I don't really recommend it. When I first got the truck, I actually pulled the seats out of the back, thinking that I would have more storage space. And what I found was it made the interior really loud, so I needed all of that foam insulation on the back of the cab in order to keep it quiet. So now I just put my fridge back there. I've got a box with tools, a jump pack under the seat. I carry a little first aid kit and some ratchet straps. For years, well, over a decade, I had a 50-quart ARB fridge, and I recently upgraded to their 0 series fridge. The jury's still out. We'll see if it's better. It has a tough act to follow, to be quite honest, but so far so good. I've been really pleased with this fridge as well. So you can fold up the center console and have a third person sit here, but this really is your cup holder, and it comes in handy to store little things. My garage door opener is in there, nuts and bolts, things like that. But the best bang for the buck is this Home Essentials basket from Target, because there's really just unused space here in between the seats. So I just put this basket here, shove the seat up, and I've got some dog treats for the dog. My mask is here. I have a rugged radio that I'll use when we're using this as a chase truck that I put in there, and it just kind of is a carry-all. Tumblers that are too big for the cup holders, and honestly, I don't know what I did without it. This is what Minimalist Overlander is all about. if you've seen the inside of a stock Tundra, then you've seen what this looks like. There's not really much to show you. I had a 3rd gen 4Runner and I was really fond of that truck. And this is sort of nostalgic for me because the layout's exactly the same, so it's super intuitive, but even the air compressor isn't even wired into here, it's under the hood. The lights for the light bar are hooked up to the factory switch. I did add a trailer brake controller. I do tow with this sometimes, and I find if you have any sort of load behind it, the factory brakes aren't enough to stop the trailer. So that really comes in handy, but otherwise, what you see is what you get. I think there's this perception in the overland community that you need a bunch of mole with things strapped to it and all the patches, and those are cool. I mean, that's an aesthetic, you know. If you like it, cool, but don't feel like you have to have that or that you have to have a rooftop tent in order to go overlanding, because you don't. This truck's super reliable. That's the most important thing. It fits my gear in it. That's the second most important thing. And there hasn't been anywhere that I've wanted to go that I couldn't because I didn't have a rooftop tent or I didn't have solar panels on my truck.
So if I'm being completely honest, when I made that first Minimalist Overlander video with my 4Runner, it was partially just to slap that Minimalist hashtag on there and get a lot of views. And honestly, it did work. Got a lot of views, and I think people are searching for a Minimalist Overlander. People are looking for something that's a lot simpler than a lot of the vehicles that you see going down the road, with a lot of stuff bolted to the outside, a lot of aftermarket accessories. And I just wanted to show people that, you know, you can get up some pretty gnarly roads if you have a 4Runner or Tundra. So Harry was pretty stoked on that concept and wanted to show me this Tundra that he built sort of along those same lines. It's got just enough modifications to make it really useful. I thought it was really interesting. Love this truck. It's been a lot of fun driving it today. It's very comfortable, and I can see a lot here that I want to incorporate into my vehicle. So if you have a vehicle like this that you really think fits this overlanding, this minimalist overlanding ethic, this concept, hey, let me know. Post in the comments and maybe we'll meet up and shoot a video. Otherwise, we'll see you in the mountains. Happy trails.